Long ago, immortals battled to become gods. When it ended, they are to be rewarded according to merit. However, an immortal named Jiang Zia hears a voice saying he shouldn't attain apotheosis yet. Suddenly, he feels tired and he succumbs to sleep. 3,000 years later, a tour guide shows the place where Zia slumbered, saying he hasn't reached apotheosis yet because he fell asleep. A girl gets excited, saying she found a handsome cosplayer. When she tries to take a picture, her camera emits a flash just as Zia opens his eyes. Instantly, he yells angrily, blinded. When he recovers, he sees a bunch of people he thinks are in weird attires. He also sees some signatures of words he doesn't understand. Confused, he decides to leave, levitating in the air, shocking the girl nearby. As he flies away, he contemplates the structures which look like city walls. When he lands, he walks among the crowd. Some girls who notice him state that he's cute, which he hears. However, he's clueless about what they meant. Annoyed that he can't understand anything, he uses magic. Eventually, he gathers the knowledge of the current world. Now that he understands, he grabs his robe, takes it off, and gets called a pervert. Later, after he gets himself sorted out, he decides to continue his belated apotheosis. Just when he's planning what to do first, he hears a scream. Pissed off, he states that it's offensive to disturb him. To his surprise, he sees Deji, a fox demon, sucking the soul of a guy. She laughs to herself, saying teenagers are crazy to approach her because of a tattoo show. Upon seeing Zia, she asks him if he's one of them, which offends him. He remembers her, saying he once slew her. He states she hasn't learned her lesson at all. Recognizing his voice and eyes, Ji becomes nervous. Tense, she casts a summoning spell, saying she'd been devouring negative energies to revive her soul. Though she's unhappy to depend on childish idiots, she declares she won't let herself perish in his hands again. She commands her summons, the Vajra and electronic fox demons, to attack him. Quickly, one of them jumps, launching itself into the air. It's about to pounce on Zia, but in the next moment he merely grabs the fox. With his eyes darkened, he propels himself forward while still gripping the fox, slamming it on the ground with a mighty force as his magic crackles. As the dust cloud dissipates, the other fox faces him. From its forehead, it fires off a laser-like beam towards Zia, which he easily dodges. The attack hits a building with a boom, alarming the people on the ground. Clicking his tongue, he's annoyed that she's jeopardizing the lives of innocent people again. This time, it's him who attacks while Ji looks at him, terrified. He grabs her neck, saying the underworld has no god only because he hasn't apotheosized yet. He tells her no matter if it's the past or present, he'll always be the most powerful in the world. Ji struggles under his group, telling him to let her go. He gets annoyed, so he slaps her, saying he's not someone she can fool. She ends up on the ground, clutching her cheek. He states that he better finish her off quickly so he can continue planning, and immediately, the fox demon becomes humble, begging him to spare her life. Zia wonders where his tools for banishing demons are, which makes her hopeful that he forgot. However, he then recalls they are with his spirit Elifur. He decides to get it and uses his mystique Kunlun craft. With a disapparition spell, they teleport. Zia is confused as the spell should have taken them to a zoo. Instead, they see a cafe and hear some customers talking about meeting Elifur. As they rush in excitement, the realization hits him. He tries to see what the people are looking at, but he fails. Meanwhile, Ji tries to sneak away, but she's unsuccessful as Zia grabs her, telling her to get in line. Hours later, he gets impatient as he relaxes in the lounge. Finally, Ji arrives, saying she took pictures of the situation inside. She shows him the phone's screen, revealing a small deer being caressed. Zia exclaims that it really is Elifur, meaning his powers weren't mistaken in bringing them there. Ji realizes she was made to line up only because he thought his magic lost touch. Instantly, he rapidly barges through the lines, yelling to Elifur that her master has arrived. Straight ahead of him is one of the staff at the cafe, and his face crashes into her chest, stunning her. But Zia is only concerned about finding Elifur. The cute creature notices him and instantly becomes flustered. With a poof of smoke, Elifur, who's a spectral mount, becomes a small girl. After she greets him, he becomes miffed that it took her 3 seconds to recognize him. Later, he comments that Elifur is having quite a good time in the current era. As she's pouting that he left her to fend for herself, he states he didn't expect to sleep for 3,000 years. Just then, Lee and Mei, the staff at the cafe, brings them bubble tea. Zia gets excited about Lee's huge chest, making her uncomfortable. Elifur declares that Zia doesn't seem to be sorry about what happened and berates him for ogling girls. Ji agrees with her before becoming enamored with the bubble tea she's drinking. Zia hits her, saying she has no right to talk. When he commands Elifur to hand him his tools, Ji asks him why he left his weapons with her. The girl recalls it's because she asked him, and she sighs, saying she was too young and naive. The restaurant staff laughs, which makes Zia self-conscious. He shows off by transforming Elufter into her combat mode. With her transformation is the Whip of Divine Retribution, which he takes and threatens Ji with. She cries, pleading that he grant her a last wish before she dies. She begs to drink another cup of bubble tea. He becomes suspicious, saying he won't be fooled. Instead, he decides to drink the bubble tea himself. After a few gulps of the drink, he becomes quiet, before exclaiming that the drink is so delicious. Later, Zia's stomach bulges while Elufter becomes a cast that he drank 100 bubble teas. She then reveals that currently, they're in one of the domains of his most difficult nephew. He asks her who it is, and she replies he's the one who wreaked havoc in the Eastern Sea, Nija. Elufter reveals that he's surrounded by the 7 demons of May Mountain, doing eccentric things every day like daydreaming. Hearing that, Zia is reminded of what Jai did. He turns to the fox demon, who eagerly volunteers to deal with childish brats to make it up to him. Thinking that he could make Ji do all the dirty work, he says that since she pleaded sincerely, he'll spare her life. He then declares that they should now go conquer Za. He's about to use his magic when Elufter tells him there's no need for it. As she knows where he is, she points out his whereabouts on the map. Not wanting to waste any more time, he announces to Elufter that they should get going, transforming her into combat mode. After traversing on top of buildings, they arrive at a derelict building. When his mount transforms back to normal, he asks her why, and she points to a sign saying no pets are allowed. He gets annoyed that they have such strict rules for a rundown place. As Ji peeks inside, he continues to comment on the state of the place while Elufter shushes him. He slaps Ji's tail, telling her to get the childish brat. Scared, she opens the door and gets greeted by a body lying on the floor. It's Wu Long, one of the 7 beasts of Mount Mei. They become alarmed as he has been beaten to death. Zia realizes that he hasn't died for long as his body is still warm. Worried for his nephew, he urgently instructs Ji to locate him. She eagerly complies, but then something distracts her before an explosion erupts in the building. Shocked, Elufter and Zia turn, only to see Neja by the door. The redhead surveys the scene before declaring that Zia is the murderer. Annoyed, the other asks him if he really just called him a murderer. He faces Ja before the supposedly dead Long tells them to hold up. Ja then questions who Zia is, who gets mad, and yells that he's the redhead's martial uncle. The younger doesn't believe him, much to his frustration. To prove to him that he's Zia, he makes Elufter transform into combat mode. Ja immediately recognizes the Whip of Divine Retribution. Later, after Zia explained everything, Long explains that they maintain their detective skills by rehearsing murder cases. Zia says since they live such dull lives, they should just join him in attaining apotheosis, but Ji replies that he doesn't want to ascend as he has friends to think of. Zia states it's no child's play as it's ordained by their Empyrean Lord. The redhead declares that he's the master of his destiny, and so will decide on his own. Zia replies he'll make Ja walk on the right path, so he makes Elufter transform to combat mode again. Following his instructions, she releases the Cosmo Matrix scroll. Ja's surroundings become enveloped by space, until he's floating in between the mountain and the river. Zia confirms that they are indeed in the scroll that once trapped Za. Meanwhile, the others are left outside, wondering what happened. Zia declares that talking is useless and attacks his nephew. Mockingly, he asks the redhead where his arrogance went, but it only makes Ja fired up, and he attacks with a fiery wind wheel, followed by a blazing bayonet. However, Zia only looks unfazed. The fire attacks hit the ground, and Ja immediately realizes that the other managed to dodge every attack. His uncle suddenly appears behind his back, saying that it's unfortunate that his nephew neglected his battle skills because of friendship. Ja curses while Zia states that it's over. The latter whips the redhead, hitting him painfully in the face. To his surprise, he's about to get hit, but he manages to grab the younger's foot, gripping it tightly while saying he's finally getting serious with their fight. Ja jumps away, furiously gritting his teeth at what Zia has revealed. Snarling that his uncle is merely toying with him, he releases his power. Outside, the sphere, which encases the 2 men, contorts out of shape. Long is stunned to see a space dimension warp, while Elufter suspects this might happen. Inside, Ja's fire is blazing. As he's using all his techniques at once, Zia becomes cautious. His nephew yells that he should never have belittled him. The older realizes that it'll be a long fight against the younger's extreme tri-head, 6-armed mode. The redhead gathers fire in his hands, while Zia states that he'll have to end the fight soon. He charges toward his nephew, while the redhead says it's pointless to engage him in close combat. He expects to hit Zia, but his uncle's figure merely kept coming toward him, much to his shock. When the older gets close, it's revealed that he's actually repelling Ja's attack. With the whip of retribution modified to the seraphic rope used to capture gods, Zia captures Ja. The redhead is in disbelief and feels he's losing consciousness. Zia states that the integration of mystic tools is something third-generation disciples of Kunlun don't know. After Ja passes out, his uncle says his demonified form is nothing before his Wujixin emblem. Soon after, the sphere collapses. The two men emerge, while Zia says the building is collapsing, causing the others to panic. Unbeknownst to them, a stranger is observing them as they leave. Later, back at Elifur's cafe, Zia has consumed several cups of bubble tea and still asks Elifur for more. Annoyed, she tells him that she's busy and to stay out of her way, he isn't going to help. Since the staff got busy with the two guys they brought with them, the customers are left waiting. Zia thinks there's no problem at all, and he uses his magic to create some men to help them. The customers get excited as he uses his Kunlun human creation spell, while Elifur gets horrified. What emerges are ultra-muscled men, whom Zia instructs to help Elifur. Eagerly, they follow his instructions, while Elifur dismays. The men are of no help at all, and they only end up destroying stuff. Later, Zia, who's booted out of the cafe, finds Ji, who's mourning her ruined tale. She gets nervous as he glares at her, thinking that she pissed him off for being useless earlier. Defeated, she tells him he saw nothing, as she pretends to be still asleep. He hits her again, telling her to get out and help if she's awake. When Lee comments that he's good-looking, Zia gets flattered, and he invites her to hang out with him after work. Beside him, Joe wants to say something. Zia asks him if he's still looking for a fight, but the redhead's words are unintelligible because of the cloth stuffed in his mouth. As Zia removes the cloth, he tells his nephew to be careful with his words. Unexpectedly, Ja isn't upset, only enthusiastic about the integration of mystic tools. Zia becomes disturbed as the other's face becomes needy. He gushes about how it's so awesome and begs his uncle to teach him how to use them. Zia laughs, terribly flattered. Ja continues to beg for his teachings, so his uncle agrees, saying he'll teach him as long as he helps him with his apotheosis plan. He exclaims he's found another worker for Elifur. Meanwhile, a group of people is covertly traveling on top of buildings. They observe Elifur's cafe, knowing the guy who defeated Ja is inside. One man tells his companions that their hunt has begun. The next morning, Lee is alarmed to see so many orders first thing in the morning. May replies that there are also more of them on her desk. The latter notices Zia and starts to beg the heavens dramatically for a delivery man, saying she finds him the most handsome. Immediately, Zia approaches them, saying that deliveries can be done in a few minutes. Mai praises him, saying that he's the most handsome guy she's seen. He becomes enthusiastic and is about to instruct Elifur to do it, when Mai says that he'd be so handsome riding an electric bike. The next moment, he's riding one, saying he's off stunningly that Mi's plan worked. Later, as he drives around the city, he imagines himself surrounded and adored by the beautiful cafe staff, making him drive faster. Afterward, he knocks on a door, saying delivery has arrived. When no one answers the door immediately, he gets mad, but then somebody opens it. The two men are startled, recognizing each other. The man is Yan Jiang, once the chief diplomatic envoy of Seiki Battalion. Inside his apartment, Zia says though Yan is the most impressive among the third-generation disciples of Kunlun, he's living such a miserable life. He comforts him, saying he'll be apotheosized soon because of his merits. However, Yan only cries, saying his roaring hound is gone. Zia asks him if he'll accept apotheosis if he finds roaring hound, saying he'll use his teleportation search technique, but the other says it's pointless as he already used the groundbreaking gold beam spell, and it didn't work. Zia is aghast that his nephew practiced a mortal technique, causing him to lessen his powers. He declares that since Yan can't find her, they merely have to get more people to help them find Roaring Hound together. Later, Zia calls on Ja and the others to search. Both he and Yan are dubious that they'd be of any help. Ja finds a picture of Yan holding a cat and says that it's a clue. Yan says that it's actually Roaring Hound, saying he dressed her up as a cat since he can't have one though he loves them. Zia and Elifur become convinced that Roaring Hound ran away because of this. Zia turns on Yan's computer before saying he's found the truth. On the screen is a picture of a bound Roaring Hound, which makes Long drool while Zia states he understands why Roaring Hound got taken away. Yan gets flustered, saying he's the only one who should see Roaring Hound dressed like that. Jia notices a message, saying they are to come to a place if they want to find her. He exclaims to the others that he knows where she is, and after a few quick clicks of the mouse, they find a map specifying her location. As it's a blatant provocation, the three become determined, saying they accept the challenge. That night, the three men quickly travel before finally arriving at the location. Yan halts his uncle, as someone is waiting for them. A man named Byun complains that it took so long for them to arrive despite the many clues he left behind. He declares that it's time for him to get revenge, while Zia and his nephews get surrounded. He continues to say he'll finish them off with the power bestowed upon him by his leader and lord. When Ja asks what he's talking about, Byun gets mad, declaring that they're treating him like a fool, so he instructs his men to attack. However, a swift attack from Yan defeats them, and he threatens Byun to reveal where Roaring Hound is. A woman tuts, telling Byun that he's not using the power she gave him the right way. As she approaches them, Ja asks the woman who she is, and she replies that if only he stayed a coward like Tae, then he would have lived longer.